I quickly want to cut across to Charlotte Littlewood, head of UK-India Desk for International Centre for Sustainability. Charlotte, India has issued an advisory today, and that advisory very carefully worded talks of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada. All Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. What do you make of this advisory issued by India?
I think there's a growing concern around attacks on temples that has been something that's building for a while, an anti-India bias that we're seeing actually across the West, but that really has been seeing a real issue in Canada. So I think this concern is something that has been present and growing. It could well be that what has happened in the last 48 hours actually will trigger more anti-India sentiment and more attacks on temples and potentially the High Commission. I think if this kind of statement has been issued, again, this is something that will be based on intelligence, and people should heed caution to statements like this, absolutely.
Okay, and what's the response to the words used by the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he talks of credible allegations, not credible evidence, but credible allegations, and not direct link as revealed by investigations, but a potential link? What's the response to this?
I think for the Prime Minister to have made a statement like this at all, that there must be evidence that he is speaking from. But the fact that he chose to speak about this without being able to share that evidence, I think is incredibly naive. But I think what is a deeper issue here is the lack of communications and the lack of work between intelligence services, between Canada and India to be able to resolve these issues. You know, if this is true, and I absolutely would not be saying that it is without evidence, as Trudeau has, but if this is true, this speaks of a deeper issue of working together to resolve issues of threats of terrorism. You know, Najjar has had a red Interpol notice against him since 2016.
Yes.
And this really should mean that Najjar had been brought in and arrested and deported and dealt with by India. This is a known terrorist who is attached to prescribed organizations, not just in India, but also in the UK. Baba Khalsa is prescribed in the UK. And India, Canada itself has faced the worst terrorist attack on its soil at the hand of Khalistani extremists. So I really feel like Trudeau's statements and his positioning here is not only an insult to India's sovereignty, but it's also an insult to the victims, the Canadian citizens that died over Ireland. So I believe that we're not in a position to talk about whether there is evidence. I believe Trudeau was not in a position to share anything like this, and it was very naive and insulting, and is going to be deeply problematic going forwards for Canadian-Indian relations. And I really don't see how these wounds will heal in a timely manner at all. It's very concerning.
And information that's available seems to indicate that Justin Trudeau also reached out to Five Eyes partners. He's reached out at least to UK, to the US, to Australia. What's the response to the kind of his statement and the response of the Five Eyes partners?
I think what we know as the general public at the moment is that Najjar 45 was gunned down by those that it appeared to be gang violence. We're not sure. They're unidentified individuals. There's a building discussion, and there has been for a while, by ISF, by the banned organization, Sikh Federation, that this has been an India inside job. So these are not trusted sources. So on a sort of public level looking at this, if you look at the sources from which the accusations that this is an inside job come from, they're not sources that can be trusted, and they're sources that are linked with terrorism, banned and prescribed in some countries. So if that is the evidence that Trudeau is basing this accusation on, then that is problematic to a very high degree, and just shows how deeply Canada needs to reflect on its relationship and cooperation with terrorists. But as I've said at the beginning of this interview, I don't have the evidence that intelligence services have. We have what we are able to read, and at present we read that it's a gang violence with unidentified perpetrators, and that the push for this to be an India inside job has come from those that we know have links to terrorism are banned and prescribed in certain places, and we shouldn't be listening and trusting their views.